Yeah, while we do our pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
republic
which
which
stands
stands
one nation
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Always fun to see the audio delay in Zoom, isn't it?
Yeah. Throws you off.
Great. Nice minutes, Debbie. Anybody? I saw we got some comments in email. Anybody else have any verbal comments? No, we have a motion to adopt.
Second.
Wait, who motioned? I'm sorry, I can't. Who a motion to adopt?
I can motion. Agam seconded.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye.
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 We're adopted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. So our first topic is Agam's proposal for a smoking ordinance, nuisance ordinance. Agam, do you want to do your presentation and talk us through it?
Yeah, that sounds good. So let me just figure out how to share the screen. Okay, so you should be able to see slide 1 here. We good?
Yep, we're good.
Yep, you're at
Yeah,
the
thanks. So this is a proposal to act on the nuisance of secondhand smoke in multifamily dwellings such as townhomes, condos, and apartments, and it goes to the heart of the definition of a public nuisance that we've codified in the township, which means a public nuisance affecting health. And nothing really could meet it better than the nuisance of a secondhand cigarette smoke. You're all well aware of how toxic secondhand smoke is, not only to lungs, but also to almost every other organ in the human body. What you may not have heard is, number one, there's no risk-free exposure. In other words, even a single exposure can be dangerous, especially for people with lung conditions such as asthma or underlying cardiovascular conditions. Number two, lots of people, dozens of Americans still die from exposure to secondhand smoke every day. This is from the US Surgeon General's report. And then number three, and this is really sad, where in cases where people live and there's cigarette smoke in and around their homes, they become victims of involuntary exposure. And therefore, some action becomes a public health imperative where citizens cannot get abatement on their own. So imagine for a minute that you live in a townhome and you share a party wall with your neighbor. On either side, the units are adjacent and so close that neighbors can shake hands from the front porch or deck or even windows. And if your neighbor's out smoking on the front porch or out on the deck, and that's cigarette smoke, the plume easily could envelope your unit and penetrate into your unit through doors, windows, HVAC systems, leaving you trapped as a resident in your own home with nowhere to escape. So you're a victim you're a helpless victim. And once that smoke enters your unit, you're going to have second and third order effects where it's going to be hard to get rid of it. It can cling on to your furniture, fixtures. And if you have somebody in your family with an underlying respiratory condition, that could make it worse. I mean, the debate in the world right now has actually moved on to third-hand smoke and the dangers of third-hand smoke, which is cigarette smoke that can transmit through fixtures, furniture, etc. So secondhand smoke is known to be a health hazard and a nuisance. So then the question is if you're such a neighbor and such a victim, what would you do? What options would you have? Right now in the township, in these circumstances, you have pretty much just two options. Both pretty unreasonable. One is you could sue your neighbor, and the other one is you could sell your house and move out, assuming the HOA is not able to provide any abatement. And even if you sell your house and move, there's no guarantee that a different planned community is going to have the same philosophy or the same guidelines. So if you put this in context of other nuisances, for example, if your neighbor was making loud noise, or if your neighbor was nude in the driveway or on the deck, you could call the cops to just have them referee the situation with civility. But you can't do that with cigarette smoke, even though cigarette smoke kills, and it's a nuisance to multiple people. It's a public health hazard. So this consists of two proposals. One is the cleanest. It's a new ordinance, but it relies on two existing principles. One is of the principle that the township already enforces nuisance restrictions on private property. For example, loud noise that we talked about, could even be fireworks. And the second one is that the township already recognizes secondhand cigarette smoke as a nuisance because it's banned, smoking is banned completely and totally in parks and buildings in the township. So that's the cleanest way to approach it. An alternative is a little bit more straightforward, where just the township formally recognizes secondhand cigarette smoke into the existing definition of a nuisance, which of course is the public nuisance affecting health. And just by this action, it could give a lifeline to people who don't have any other remedy. Even a simple call to the police, who could just, with civility, just go and approach somebody and let them know that you may not smoke in a nuisance manner, could really be a God-sent lifeline. The next two slides just list out potential questions that either our counsel may have or even the solicitor may have, and these are all fair questions. So we've just made an attempt to list them out. One is, of course, that if it's a private property where you have townhomes, condos, apartments fall in that category, the township shouldn't be regulating nuisances. The response to that is there are examples where nuisances like noise and fireworks are already regulated. The second one possibly could be that state law preempts Plymouth Township from enacting such an ordinance. I don't think the state law preempts the township in this matter. Plus, under option 2, where you're just recognizing secondhand smoke as a nuisance, in the existing definition, this doesn't even come into play. Somebody could very well say that, can we just punt this to the HOA? The problem is you don't want township residents at the mercy of HOAs. It can be a very messy affair. This is something that's near and dear to my heart that I've experienced. And plus, you don't want different HOAs acting differently on an issue that makes universal common legal and medical sense for everybody. The next one's also a legitimate concern, that what if somebody just litigates? I think this is a big one. What if somebody sues or thinks about litigating for the right to smoke on a private property? I mean, there are nuances to this, where if you're in a condo, apartment, or townhome, and you're in a nuisance, and you're smoking in a nuisance manner, you're actually not on your property if you're outside your unit. But regardless, there is no fundamental or constitutional right to smoke. So smoking is not a specially protected fundamental right. Smokers don't constitute a class, and therefore there is no such thing as a right to smoke. There's a very good reference here that you might want to read, because this is a notion that a lot of people have. A right to smoke doesn't exist. And so therefore, because of this, smoking has been regulated almost completely and totally by all kinds of governing entities, including cities, municipalities, HOAs, private companies, payers, in a lot of other places. The next one could also be something that we could see coming up, that, hey, there's no precedent of such action in PA. Really, I think the public conscience is moving the needle on this. It really is the right thing to do, especially in this pandemic situation, where lung disease and pre-existing exposure to lung disease constitutes a risk. there's also a threat that people are exploring where cigarette smoke could contain small viral particles, although it's not proven yet, that could impact other people. Just to put this in perspective, cities such as Philadelphia have implemented a total and complete ban on smoking in private places such as bars and restaurants. Pennsylvania enacted recently an order that banned smoking in casinos. That was pretty major. It is temporary for the COVID-19 pandemic, but it was still pretty major. All of Atlanta, Hartsfield recently went smoke-free because of the pandemic. So the public conscious is really starting to notice, especially given the pre-existing lung disease risk. And then the last question is a reasonable one. If somebody is smoking, where would that person go? And here, really, the person would just do what the person would do in numerous other private and public spaces. And those constitute township parks, buildings, healthcare facilities, nursing homes, doctors' offices, hospitals, workplaces, bars, malls, movie theaters. You just go outside the property. So you're sufficiently far away from buildings and people so that your cigarette smoke doesn't expose people to the smoke in and around their own homes. So that's the proposal. Karen and Rick, I think you missed this at the last meeting. Would love to have your feedback. We've waited on this over months and just captured people's comments, but would love your input.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where, I couldn't go out on my deck or I couldn't go out of my home without smelling cigarette smoke. I guess it would be up to the township solicitor to say whether or not the township could adopt something like this. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me for sure.
So Agam, you're not proposing to stop people from smoking inside their apartments or condos, just doing it outside where, like in the hallways of apartment buildings or the decks and front porches of townhouses that are adjacent to each other, correct?
That's a great point. Exactly, Karen. So we'll have to just make point number one clearer. In that case, where in these multi-family dwellings, the moment you step out of your front or rear door, you're actually on association property. You're not on your own property. So there's no theory, no legal theory that can say that you can create a nuisance on property that doesn't even belong to you, Karen. So you're exactly right. Within the four walls of your home, as long as the cigarette smoke is contained, absolutely somebody can continue smoking.
Yeah, another situation where, and I'd have to look at our nuisance ordinance. I don't know if it's defined specifically, but I do know that people who allow their dogs to eliminate, so to speak, on other people's property, that comes under the heading of nuisance. It adversely affects health. And people who attract feral cats so that they are destroying the use of the yard of neighbors where, a person may be attracting dozens of feral cats with food and water, and then the neighbors on either side can't even use their back or front yards for their small children to play because it is filled with cat feces. And that's a nuisance, a health hazard. So I think there are other circumstances, where health is affected. And of course, these are not even townhouse dwellings. These are just allowing animals or attracting animals so that they do go into other people's yards. So here, where you're, so close that the smoke is drifting. I mean, I went to your apartment, your condo complex, and I saw just how close the decks are. And I mean, they're right up on each other, and you have common walls and common driveways, and your, front porches are right there. So.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. And those are excellent examples. If it's okay with you, I'll just revise the deck and introduced that other example of a nuisance consisting of either dog poop, just for lack of a sophisticated word, or feral cats, just to give another benchmark to the argument.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going into other people's yards, but so is the smoke going into your deck, your driveway, your front porch where you want your children to play. So that might be something persuasive because council does deal with that from time to time. So I think it's something council members will relate to.
Yeah, you have to go down now. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Karen. I've been pretty transparent that I've been through this. I wouldn't want any other constituent to go through this. I have a family member who is, who's got a condition that's triggered by cigarette smoke. We've been in situations where plumes of smoke just come in. We've done everything by the book, and things have just gotten worse. So, all of that's a story for a different forum, but, I just wouldn't want anybody else to go through. So this just needs to be, I just see this as almost, nothing meets the definition of public nuisance better than cigarette smoke affecting multiple people. And so it's just something that falls right at the heart of what the township should do for its constituents. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Does the smoke, do the HVAC systems, are they all connected within your building?
So,
Like, so if they
yeah.
smoke within the four walls, will it go into your HVAC system?
So Debbie, that's a good point. So it depends on the construction that you're talking about. If you have apartments, then dry walls can be porous enough to let cigarette smoke through. HVACs run common, and so people will have exposure through HVACs. In cases where, in townhomes like the ones that I live in, you probably don't have that much, if any, wall-to-wall transmission because the party walls is cinder block. But the invasion by the cigarette smoke through the front door, garage, windows, deck could be almost near and complete if the wind's blowing and if your windows are open, you're trapped.
So this slide 4 is the actual ask, right?
Yeah, slide 4 is the actual ask. We've got some good comments. Slide 4 is, I will make a couple of about 2 or 3 revisions based on these comments and circulate the revised version, but this is the ask, yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, in the order of presentation to a council at a workshop, whether that, okay, so there are 2 choices here, 1 and 2. So I guess, is there a preference for which of these? Because it might be, if we already have a thought that one would be more effective, it might be good to maybe ask for your first choice, to say this would be our preference. And then if this is not the preference, then this would be the ask. So I'm wondering whether 1 and 2 are equally equivalent, or whether one is preferred. Which one is preferred?
So Bill, my opinion is that number 1's the cleanest because of exclusion. So it prohibits people with a very clear boundary that you can't smoke anywhere except in your own unit. Number 2 is a little bit blurred, where you have to prove that it's a nuisance, and if you call a police officer to referee, then he has to investigate the nuisance. It's completely doable and it completely fits in. It's also a little bit more straightforward. I could see technically the solicitor just coming back and saying that, hey, this is an HOA issue or PA state law preempts it. I just think, number 2 is a little bit more straightforward. Number 1's the cleanest because it gives a very clear guidance on what happens or what's prohibited. Yeah. Karen, any thoughts on one versus the other, or should we just have council weigh in, or?
Yeah, I think let council weigh in, but I think with number 2, to include secondhand smoke within the definition of nuisance, because there are definitions, and I apologize for not having the nuisance ordinance in front of me, but to specify, that secondhand smoke, to include that in the definition of a nuisance. So that it's very clear that it includes secondhand smoke, so that you don't just have to say, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So,
Somewhere.
yeah, let me just go up. I think, yeah. So Karen, this runs one page, this ordinance, the public
Yeah.
nuisance. So right now, as it stands, the public nuisance affecting health codification has no mention of secondhand smoke, but that could be entirely conceivable where you incorporate, in option
Yeah.
number 2.
So it might be, I'm just thinking of the presentation again, whether, I know you'll speak to it, but I'm thinking that just to be able to prepare your audience there, that it'd probably be good that this document be distributed ahead of the council meeting. So when they come in, they have pre-read it. They'll have some questions. They'll be a little bit more able to interact. So to me, this action proposed slide, I would just try to make it a little more clear, saying our preferred solution would be number 1, alternatively number 2, or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, completely fine with it. I'm just thinking, would indicating a preference take away from any action at all, or would both still be considered? Not sure how that would be perceived, but completely open to it.
Well, if they're equal, then say either of these 2 actions proposed, select 1 or 2, based on the, I'm just trying to help you avoid a little bit of confusion before the presentation. So I would just try to say that this slide be a little bit more clear as to what the ask is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with it. We can retool it and indicate 1 as the preferred option. What do the rest of the team members think? Any thoughts?
Sorry, I'm swatting a fly. That's what that big bang was.
Sure, it's not a lanternfly?
It's not, it's a giant house fly, and I missed.
I would just say, yeah, on this slide, I would read it as you're asking for 2 separate actions. So.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
I
I
think that-
see.
Put
I think
or
that
in the
should
middle
be,
or something.
Oh, I see what you're saying, Andy. Okay, so okay, so right, one possible options, or one or the
Yeah.
other.
Right, possible
Why don't we
options.
say possible options? Okay.
That would work.
And then is the statement about public or common property important here? Because I think that a lot of places, the nuisance or the noises are, you're right, if it intrudes into somebody's property. But I guess the other question is, when I read one of those California ordinances or nuisances, it said smoking was not allowed on common areas and could not be within 20 feet of a building. So I guess in terms of number 1, making it clear whether that is a ban inside private property or only in common property. I would want to make that a little more clear.
Yeah, good point. I will. Karen raised it earlier, so I think this needs a little bit of cleanup. So I'll clean up number 1 so that it reflects that within the unit, it's okay within somebody's private unit as long as it's contained.
So I guess in terms of the rest of the deck, just in terms of what you're trying to pitch, it's kind of like you've got the problem statement, you've got the action requested, and then possible questions, right? Is there any value in any additional data beyond the background or document? You know, the deck pretty well follows the background or document, but you know, is it enough to really just have the problem statement, the action requested, and then the questions? Would there be any other value of saying follow up, you know, or I guess when you ask for an action, you know, Karen, I'm trying to think of workshops. Sometimes the council doesn't decide right there in the workshop. They say, we're going to take this back for consideration. And then that could take, you know, an indefinite period of time, meaning, you know, is it reasonable to ask for a response time, I guess? Or, you know, when could you get back to us or things like that? I guess I'm just trying to prep for that workshop meeting. How should we, you know, feel about it if there's no kind of indication of yay or nay within that meeting itself?
Well, I think that just as far as a timeline, because it is an ordinance, it's going to take some time. And we've been waiting. We tried to revamp the parks ordinance. It takes months. So I think as far as a timeline, you know, months is not out of the question.
That's fair, but is there an opportunity where the staff or the council may go back and not be sure about this and then won't even take it to, you know, go forward with creation or ordinance? So I guess the question is, can we ask for some indication of what the next steps would be? Meaning they're either going to say, no, we're not going to pursue this into an ordinance, or we're going to start working on an ordinance. They may not be able to answer that right at the meeting, at the workshop meeting, but would it be reasonable to ask for a response by the next workshop meeting as to whether they plan to go forward with it or not? I'm just trying to help us set our expectations of what we want to get out of this.
To answer your question, I'm not sure. You know, sometimes that, you know, they may table some things. I know this next meeting is going to be pretty, the architects and engineers are coming in to talk about the township building renovations. So I'm assuming that's going to take up a lot of time. Whether that, you know, whether they get to it or not, or we're able to talk to it, I don't know. I mean, Karen may know better. But I know this next meeting is probably going to be a pretty full meeting.
All right, so the first, so just to help us set our expectations, so I'm just trying to kind of think about what else we want to discuss tonight. So one will be, you know, we'll make this decision about motion it forward, but then given that the steps would be then that we would have to ask Karen for a workshop meeting to be put on the calendar, and it may not make the September workshop. So then she would have to tell us when the next workshop is that we can come in and you know, present it, right?
Yeah, I could tell you that it definitely won't be the September workshop, just because of the township building renovation presentation.
Okay, that's fair. Just wanted to kind of set our understanding of what's next for us.
I mean, if you wanted to get me the slideshow and we put it on, you know, put it on the agenda, and it'll be in the council's, you know, booklet so they could see it there. I mean, you can do that. Whether they'll talk about it or act on it, I don't know.
I think it'd be safer to wait for a presentation, because I'd rather, you know, Agam be able to present it and then have the discussion at that point. So I think it's safer to, you know, just wait until we can get on the agenda.
Okay, I'll see. You know, I guess it would be October would be, you know, the next available agenda, but I'll ask Karen. Weiss what they have, and go from there.
Sure. So any other discussion points from anyone else on the board? Just in terms of anything to help improve this?
And Bill, the idea with these slides was to keep it short and sweet, so within about 7 to 9 minutes, just to hit the main points. The memos got long form references and all of the other things in the 3 pages. We can certainly add more data to this, but I suspect keeping it this way in about 7 minutes might be better use of their time.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, short and sweet. They've got the detail. They can pre-read it. Andy, you're
But all the research that you did, Agam, it would be good not to present it, but to have it available so that the solicitor has it too.
Okay, yeah, sure.
You did a lot of work on this, and it would be good to share with the solicitor.
Yeah, sure. And Karen, just to close the loop on the potential bill that was introduced in the PA House on, I think, smoking restrictions by, it was Representative Dan Frankel, if you remember, the Pittsburgh Democrat. So he introduced the bill into the House. I think the bill's still in committee, and I did touch base with Representative Frankel's office. It's not likely to go anywhere given the current situation and the majority of the Republicans. So not to mention that bill is specific for smoking restrictions in workplaces, for employees, and entrance to casinos, restaurants, and bars. So this continues to be a gap. I confirm that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I had a comment on the contained within.
Andy, your voice is not coming through clearly.
Can you hear me now?
There's a lot of static or feedback.
I think there's a frog in your computer. Sounds like a frog.
and you might try reconnecting or dial in through the phone.
Reconnect in a second. If you can hear me, is the contained within statement that I think might catch some attention or results in some debate in town council. I want to think about. I don't want to change anything accurate. I want to think about what you want.
Sorry, we can't hear you. You could reconnect your audio if you go down to the audio button. You can choose switch to phone audio, and then you can dial in. You can keep your computer connection, but dial in through your phone. Brenda, did we get a new participant by phone?
Not yet, no.
Can
Oh
you hear
wait,
me?
it looks like it changed to phone, his icon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't received that feedback before. Maybe a bandwidth issue. Anyway, I was trying to say on the contained within wording, I just think that might be kind of the catch of the whole thing, where council could end up debating for a long time on that. But anyway, I don't want to change anything here, but if you have specific ideas on what you want to get out of that item, I think you should think about it some, and I wouldn't change anything, but just be able to answer your thoughts on what that really means.
Yeah, so it really becomes the responsibility of the individual who's smoking to make sure that the smoke doesn't become a nuisance. So that's the spirit of the argument. Now, if you're in your basement, completely fine. If you go into your garage with the shutter closed, you're completely fine. But if you've got 1 foot inside your house, to just make a point that you're actually within the unit, but you're, for all practical purposes, blowing smoke, outside 100%, then it kind of defeats the purpose of this, defeats the purpose of the spirit of the argument. So, at some point it becomes a little bit gray about what contained means, but the idea there is to enshrine personal responsibility with a behavior that affects others in a detrimental way.
Any other discussion? I see Mike C. Joined us. Mike, we're just finishing up Agham's presentation on the smoking ordinance nuisance. Did you have any reaction from last month that you wanted to share?
Doesn't have his webcam connected or his audio.
He might be trickling in, Bill.
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't realize he didn't have audio yet. Oh, it says trying to connect.
Up here he is.
Hey Mike, welcome. We're just finishing up Agham's presentation on the smoking nuisance. Did you have, I know you didn't see it tonight, but did you have any comments from last month that you wanted to share?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was all set. I didn't have anything to add.
Great, thanks. Mike V, you okay?
I'm good. It looks great. It's a lot of great work on it.
Yep, good work, Agam. So know that if no further discussion is needed, then ask for a motion to adopt or make a motion for this. So who wants to make a motion that we present this to the council?
I'll motion.
Debbie, the second from Mike C. So we'll go ahead and propose that we move this motion forward to, or this proposal forward to council. I'll ask for a workshop date. I guess, Agam, just in terms of the few tweaks that you want to make on this, it's not urgent, but the next staff meeting is a week from, is it this Thursday or a week from this Thursday, Rick?
It would probably be this Thursday.
Okay, so I can make the email. I'll send the email with the proposal, and then but you don't have to have. I don't think we need the documents until she needs to send it out for council review, which would be the Friday before the council meeting. So I think I can still get the email in by the staff meeting this Thursday, and then if you need a little more time to get the documents finalized, we can get that to her next week.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. The timeline works. Give me a few days, Bill and team, to just make the changes that we talked about. So tighten up the deck a little bit, and then in roughly a week or so, it'll be good to circulate for one final review. And if everybody's okay, we can cascade it onto the council.
Sounds good. Thanks. Very good work. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be the trendsetters here in Pennsylvania and get the public alerted to the problems with secondhand smoke.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess just in terms of our leftover comments from Mike Ewell a few months ago, Karen, do we have any updates on Cabana or proposals for what will happen in the coming period of time? Will there be any decisions that we might want to be aware of for anything the township is planning?
No, I think we've got better than another year on our contract. I forget when we renewed it. I guess it was December, so it was a 2-year contract, so there's nothing coming up.
And do you have any feel for when the environmental report or the legal report might be written for the township?
I don't know. Oh, excuse me, I have to leave for a second. Francis? Oh, okay. All right. Not a problem. I'll turn everything off. Sorry.
So yeah, just the next time you get to hear any comments on that, just so that within the next year, we'll have enough time to be able to react in terms of what the township wants to do at the end of that contract extension. And while we're here, was there anything, Mike, that you felt that would be worth pursuing in terms of zero waste, or are we going to wait till everybody gets back together, you think?
I've emailed Chris. Chris is on vacation this week, so I won't probably hear back from him until at least sometime next week. So I'll definitely give you guys an update next month. But try and just get his sense on some places where we can move forward, from his perspective in terms of the township. Try and get that data from the last several years regarding recycling and trash and yard waste, and inviting them to one of our meetings. So those are my goals. Okay.
Great. Yep. Sounds good. Carolyn had asked for a presentation by a small firm that does composting. I think they do pickup, residential pickup. And so that would be a service that might be of interest to some of our residents. So we've scheduled her for September meeting to come and speak to us. So I guess the other piece that's on the agenda is the Ready for 100 and the Villanova project. Andy and I have volunteered along with Matt Peterson, Elizabeth Larson, and actually Councilwoman Bandish, Catherine Bandish has also volunteered to be part of our 12-week session program that we're in the third week of this Wednesday. So the 12-week program is to create a draft energy transition plan for how to transition Plymouth municipal electrical usage to renewable energy by 2035 and to start electrifying vehicles. So that'll be the plan that we'll come up with by the end of October, and then hopefully have a draft mid-November that we could present to council for consideration as a model for what Plymouth wants to do. And do you want to add anything from your perspective of what you've seen about the program? You're good. But yeah, it's a fairly interesting program, well run, hour and a half each week. Paula has over 60 participants who register. Not everybody makes it every week because of work, but they're recorded, and we've actually had extra weekly energy literacy sessions so we can kind of all become more aware of what choices we have in our municipalities. So as we get further along, I think this week we're talking about reaching out to our stakeholders, and that goal will be to identify maybe 6 key people within the township staff and leadership who will want to interview to get their input as to what type of characteristics would be important as we work on this plan, and also to kind of help them be aware of what we're actually engaged in doing, so we can get get some buy-in, hopefully, and their input as to which way we should point our attention. So we'll keep you updated as that goes forward. Matt Peterson actually has class tonight, Tuesday night. He just started this week for his fall semester. He's working on his master's thesis also. But so I'm not, aware of everything that this deck has in it, but I'll do my best to kind of give an overview of what they did in the spring semester. And the idea here is that this would be presented to council like they did the fall semester. So glad to have your feedback. If there's anything that could be clear, I thought, Andy and I actually saw it last week. There's a lot of detail in here, so we just think that maybe there should be a little bit tweaks to some ease of presentation or clarity or transition. So glad to have your feedback as to things that'll help make it more presentable. So this is kind of what he's planning to go through. What they're working on, the electric vehicle was their focus this spring semester. They focused on vehicles and building electrification. So this is kind of just the overall goals of Ready for 100, part of the resolution that we have adopted. So that's the same from the fall presentation. This is the, I wasn't sure how many transitions he has in here. So on the right side, it's electrifying things, finding out where we have liquid fuel use in our vehicles, primarily in natural gas in the buildings, and see how we can work towards reducing those and eliminating them eventually. So this is the overall breakdown of energy in the municipality.
Is this electrical energy?
So this is current use. So this is your current breakdown. So this would be everything. And then they're going to focus on, I believe, the GPCC section would be for the building energy there. And then the gasoline and diesel fuel, I think they focused on these three segments here, the gasoline, the diesel, and the community center.
So when you're talking about the GPCC and the municipal building, you're talking about electricity?
So yeah, they're looking at
And the other is fossil fuel, gasoline and diesel.
right. So the idea in the fall semester was identifying how would we move our electrical usage to renewable energy. So that's where they came up with the solar panel proposal for GPCC and Harriet Weatherall. So that kind of took care of the municipal building energy needs as electrical, but we also realized we didn't focus on the municipal building because the township is planning to rehab it. So I don't think they really focused on the main building much. So they spent most of their time on the community center, electrical usage, and then the spring semester, the fuel side of that. So the, is this bar in the bottom in your way? Can you guys see my bar on the bottom? No. So this was their analysis of our vehicle fleet, how much fuel, number of miles, how many metric tons of emissions that creates, and then the spend on this amount of fuel. And that was a 12-month period from roughly August 2000 or September 2018 through August 2019 that they had data for, I believe. This is the data they had to take some of the paper records from the maintenance department to track how many miles each vehicle had and how many times it was serviced in terms of not just the inspections, which is more this kind of record, but there was also a key tag that the vehicle drivers use to get fuel. So when they go up to get fuel, either diesel or gasoline at the maintenance building, that's recorded. So they had to take all those records and kind of pull them together in a spreadsheet. So Matt and his team did a bit of work this spring to kind of codify that. So this is a picture of the vehicles they did take a look at. And so there's two kind of sides to this. One is the upper side is based on vehicle age. So from 5 years to 25 years in terms of vehicle age, and then across is the mileage for those vehicles. So this is kind of showing, where vehicles are in terms of their age and mileage. And then this is looking at mileage on the left, and then total mileage. So this would be, this would be individual miles per year annually, and then the total mileage for that vehicle. So what's the average that vehicle has per year, and then the total. So the older vehicles up here would probably be the candidates for replacement because they're probably getting near their end of life. So they chose a few examples here to propose to either be hybrid or EV. So this is,
Hey, Bill, on that last slide,
yep.
It's minor, but mileage is spelled differently on the two different axes.
Good catch. Woohoo! Thanks.
And I did not know that the mileage on the vertical axis is another spelling of mileage on the x-axis, or the x-axis. Yeah, either one's appropriate. So.
Oh, they are equal.
That's what Google tells me. So.
They are allowed spellings. How about that? But we'll try.
Wait, you can spell mileage without an E in the middle?
Merriam-Webster Online said it's a variant of spelling of the one on the x-axis.
Well, thanks. I don't think
Well,
we.
as long as it's Merriam-Webster.
Yes.
I don't think we would have realized that if Matt hadn't made a typo. But thanks. So then this is some of their vehicle. I'm not sure what the build means here, and which of the ones is the. Okay, so this is at the starting at the bottom. This is the gasoline vehicle. And that shows the purchase price in blue on the right, the replacement maintenance cost, or tires and maintenance in the middle. The blue is, or light blue is the insurance, and then the fuel is the yellowish on the far right. So I guess what we're doing is building up here in terms of alternatives. So a plug-in hybrid would be more expensive to purchase, but it's got less maintenance cost and less fuel cost. So if we're able to find a grant or a proposal, some way to get that hybrid without the initial cost, then in terms of overall maintenance and life, it would probably be a less expensive vehicle to maintain. Here's another example. So I'm wondering if these are all equivalents for the same Ford all-wheel drive, although it doesn't sound like it because a Chevy Volt is kind of a. Okay, so these are alternatives for the types of vehicles that were on the prior slide. So now he's got several examples based on the need of the vehicle, whether it's going to be, which of these vehicles is going to be the replacement for that. So we can see that a lot of the EVs and the hybrids do have a higher initial cost, but their operational cost is much lower. So I think we have to figure out over the life of the vehicle, does the savings, and that's a 20-year cost of ownership. So, if these aren't equivalent replacements, Okay, so the top one is the lowest maintenance, and the second one down is the higher maintenance. So there is a higher maintenance cost for that. So it's hard to say just on a apples for apples comparison that the EV and the pluggable are definite best choices. So I guess that's kind of a good question. How do we make a case for transitioning based on cost? Unless there are
Any
some,
of these hybrids and electric cars all-wheel drive for bad weather? Do you know?
so I don't think he has the equivalent.
The Volt is not all-wheel drive.
Thank you.
So I don't know that the Fords are either.
Yeah,
So
I don't think so.
I'd have to ask Matt whether he's got a all-wheel drive electric, that maybe we could put that in the proposal. Because I don't know whether you need to show both the 2020 volt necessarily. He might be able to just merge those two cells and say here's a high and a low, and then maybe we could put an all-wheel drive on here.
License is spelled wrong in the key in the bottom.
Good catch again. Thanks, Mike.
You
Let's
can
say
thank my
that-
wife for having this stuck in my head.
I don't know if the 2020 model offered all-wheel drive for the Ford Fusion, but they did not used to offer an all-wheel drive option. So they
Now,
just been at it.
That's a good feedback, though. I think if we can show a all-wheel drive example, it'd be good to include. So who uses the all-wheel drive right now in the township? Rick, do you know how many all-wheel drives you have, or roughly who uses them?
The police have quite a few with the SUVs that they have now. They still do have police cars, but you're seeing, them starting to move towards SUVs. So I'd say the police mostly have all-wheel drive. All of our vehicles in the Parks Maintenance Department and Buildings and Grounds Department are all-wheel drive because we do plow with them. And, the bigger trucks and highway are not all-wheel drive, but there are a few. So I guess they would be sprinkled throughout, but I would bet that most of the police vehicles are all-wheel drive now.
Yep. No, I think that's a good point. So if we have an example, it'd be good to show it. So thanks for that input.
Sure.
Here's
Hold on, Bill, I had another thing. Do we really think these cars are going to last 20 years?
No,
I mean, that seems
not the
very,
way they drive them. I mean,
They don't even last. They really don't even last 10 years anymore. I mean, the police
know.
put a lot of mileage and not only mileage, but just the actual engine hours.
All the idling, right?
Yeah, a lot. Most of the time they're not shut off. And we do have a couple pickup trucks that are, I would say, probably getting to the 15-year mark, but there's not many vehicles that last with the road salt and the plowing operation that lasts more than 10 years.
Yeah, it looks like Rick, you've got 8 here in this category. 15 to 18, 19 would be the highest. This would probably be 18 or 19. But these look like these are 215. Here's a 16, probably a 17. So you probably have 8 or 9.
Yeah, there's a few out there. They're not used. Obviously, not everyday use vehicles. They'll keep an old police car for the mechanics to run and get parts and things like that. The Parks and Rec Department has an old Public Works vehicle, so they will keep them around if they're in decent shape. But most of the time, they don't get that. They don't last that long.
So that's probably why he proposed that the EV and pluggable hybrid be the ones for the highest mileage, because they'll be around in the township the longest and get the most use. So if
Right.
they have the lowest maintenance, operational and maintenance and fueling cost, they would be the biggest payback for the township. So probably these 3 or 4 right here would probably be good possible candidates.
Sure.
So this is another view of this, and I guess maybe the other idea here is that this black here, the CO2 emissions. So even though it costs less to operate these vehicles as gasoline vehicles, part of our values as a township is really realizing that part of our emissions here is the impact to public health. So, sometimes it's hard to make just a straight financial justification. If you can put a cost on public health, there might be a value in saying, yeah, we realize it's going to be a little more expensive, but it's worth it for our public health to get off gasoline. This was a proposal to get level two charger, because this is got a decent charging ability, and there is a grant here in the refunding program by Pennsylvania DEP that we get up to $4,500 per charger, or 90%. So even $3,500 would cover a network level two charger here.
What does
So
networked mean?
I think network would mean that it's connected to the grid in some sense, and because if you also, I think maybe networked also in the sense that you could put it on the public charging network. So let's say you had one in the community center parking lot and you had one at the municipal building, then anybody who has an electric vehicle could charge there, and because it would be on the network, that then they would be able to use their credit card to pay for their
I see. Okay.
charge. So I think this is just showing that the investment to start getting some chargers in the township would not be a cost, and could set us up for being prepared for those transition to the electric vehicles. And then you'd have a charger. You could put a charger back at the maintenance building, and then have one at the township building and the community center, maybe have 3. So here's because of the manual record keeping, I guess, paperwork that makes it difficult to kind of track how your vehicles are doing, it would probably be good to have a way to kind of have that data more available. And actually, they were talking about the possibility that you could make that easy for the operator and the maintenance department, that you could have a little app on your phone and maybe scan the, maybe a barcode for each vehicle. And when you came in for fuel or for maintenance, you would just scan it, and that would record you into the system. And because you'd already have your vehicle identified by the inventory, by the barcode, all the operator would have to do is maybe take a picture of their mileage, and that could be recorded in with the record, or they could data enter it, so that just to make things a little easier. Take advantage of the charger, level 2 charger. Try one of your EVs in code enforcement, maybe one of your departments that doesn't have a heavy use of a vehicle that could deal with a lower charge, something that would be within 100 mile range, 150 mile range, that you could just have charged up overnight.
Yeah, I think in Philly, don't they use Priuses for code enforcement stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, the Priuses would be a good substitute. I think in terms of just trying to move more towards electrification, getting the pluggable hybrid, even if it's got gas backup, would be the ideal choice. The hybrid Ford police vehicles, I think there was another example of a Dodge Charger that's being used by a police department in Indiana. I think maybe we could put that reference in here for the police department. Then buildings. So they took a look at the community center. They looked at the natural gas usage. As it here's the winter months. You can see it peaks during the winter and is lower in the summers. Area Weatherall Park, same thing with natural gas, peak in the winter, go down. So here's the metric tons and the cost of those fuel types. And then, so to electrify building heat, you can move to either air source heat pumps or geothermal heat pumps. So there's a cost of putting geothermal up in with drilling and sinking wells, but so that higher upfront cost over the life of it, it's got a pretty good return on investment. So it's really they've shown that Phoenixville High School was going to be built with natural gas, and they showed that geothermal would be more effective. Telminson Municipal Building converted from natural gas to geothermal after study by Practical Energy out of Westchester to show that it would be a more effective long-term choice. So we've got several case studies that we can show to support investment in geothermal, but also look at air source heat pumps in the meantime. So you don't have any heat pump replacements scheduled, do you, Rick?
Not until we figure out what we're doing with the building.
Oh, that's the municipal building. But for the community center, that's pretty much, you've already put in your new air conditioning units and with a new roof, right?
Yes.
And so there'll be no other heating system upgrades. So in the next 15 years, 10 years?
We'll probably redo the boilers soon. The boilers are 25 years old, 24 years old, so they'll probably be next. With some high efficiency boilers. I mean, they're gas fired boilers.
Okay, well, there's another case for you, because if they last 25 years, we're coming up on 2025, and our township objective is to be off of fossil fuels by 2050. I guess you could say, well, I can afford to put a 25-year boiler in, but if you had the choice now, it would be good to look at an alternative. So you didn't have to put in a natural gas system and kind of lead the way. I know that's probably hard to make sense of.
It could be looked at. I mean, there are some really high efficient boilers out there now, 99%. But yeah, I mean, I guess anything could be looked at. But the infrastructure is there.
Yep.
For what we have, right. So you got to take that into consideration if you're going to be changing all the piping and duct work or flues and things like that.
Definitely, you're right. It's a big changeover. So then they did a building audit virtually. They weren't. This was after COVID. They weren't able to get physically on site, but Rick actually ran them through the what do you call that system? The energy management.
BAS, the building automation system.
Building automation system. So they ran through that in Zoom. Thank you for doing that, Rick. And they made some. They looked at each of these categories. The what do you call those VFDs for pool pumps? Oh, variable frequency drives.
Right.
So and they talked. Okay, so priority recommendations. There it is in the middle. They suggested whether any of these could be looked at to, what is the sauna currently heated by?
The sauna is heated by the boiler. So there's a heat exchanger. So, the boilers heat the water goes through the heat exchanger, and then the sauna water runs through there.
Yep. So one thing that Matt and his team did was they said,
I'm
Yep.
sorry, Bill. The sauna is heated by electric. I was thinking about the whirlpool. The sauna is heated by electric. Yes.
Okay, maybe he was thinking of the Whirlpool. I'll ask him if he wants to adjust this. So the other thing they did was they set up Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So that'll be a way for tracking the energy use of the building and any improvements. So it kind of gives you a little rating as to how well you're doing. And I think it actually compares you against other municipal or commercial level buildings. So you kind of have this kind of, peer comparison, competition to kind of see how you're holding up in terms of improving your energy efficiency. So that's the summary of work. Yep. So this was just talking about, so in the fall, they looked at the rooftop solar, and then in the spring, they worked on the electrification. So so this is actually some of the actions that we're working on in the 12-week program for the energy transition plan. So these are kind of an outline of what we're going to be doing as we go forward. So here's some recommendations, near term, medium, and long term. So that's it. Any feedback? That's 22 slides. How long I should have timed myself. How long did that take?
Wasn't keeping track. Sorry. Not too long.
Any feedback anyone have for making it clear? I know that that's a lot of dense information, and he's going to want to present it at a workshop to council. So trying to figure out how to make this a little bit easy to absorb or easy to kind of interpret or take action from. Anybody have any initial reactions? We can definitely think about it, but just wanted to see if anybody had any early reaction.
Are you able to share the slide deck with us
Yeah, that's a good.
It was the first we're seeing it, some of us, so it was a lot to take in, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad to send it around for review. So that'd be great. Yeah, because any of your feedback will be definitely appreciated. We're trying to figure out how he could make the transitions a little easier to help the council understand what was going on or what was being presented. So appreciate your feedback on that.
What's the thinking behind the VFDs on the pool pumps? Where for at night it would spin down and just heat slower?
Yeah. Yes. Right now, I mean, they run 24/7.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, you have to have so much turnover of that water. So I guess their thinking is that when the building's closed at night, maybe you could wind them down or
Okay.
I mean, they did have some, like they talked about, one of the things is a pool cover to stop the evaporation of the water. But again, and I explained that the problem is you're going to need to have somebody there at 5 o'clock in the morning, take that pool cover off. So the pool's open for 5:30 when people come in to swim, and you're going to have people at night to put it on. But I mean, it's a great idea. It just, I don't know if we have the manpower to pull it off.
Because that cuts down your AC costs then too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any way to measure, or do you have any guesses to how much water is being lost, or what your payback would be? I mean, even if you did put pool culvert covers on, do you have any idea how much it would save?
We probably could figure it out. There's meters on the makeup water. The problem is you don't know. A lot of the water is being taken out by the people coming in and out of the pool. So it'd be hard to just say if we put that cover on. I mean, listen, there's probably a mathematical equation to figure out the evaporation rate. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what that is. You know, a lot of that water's taken out as people get out of the pool, you know, walk across the deck. But we do have meters on the makeup water.
Wait till you get the kids back in the pool.
Right.
Then you
Can't
get
wait.
some water out.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. Rick, can you tell, based on the non-use of the pool over those months, how much water
Let's
you
see.
ended up not having to replace, and then look at your meters during the limited use it's got right now with the scheduling?
Probably. I mean, probably, you know, based on the water bills for the, you know, since March, and the makeup water, I mean, I'm sure we could probably figure that out. I mean, I don't think it's probably a ton because the water's not very expensive. I mean, it you know, does have a cost associated with it, but it's not, but yeah, we probably could figure that out.
Well, I was just thinking, didn't you mention, or was there some statement during your presentation where there was some corrosion? Now that might just be from the normal valve operation, but do you know if there's any, or can you see any places where as the water is being taken through the air circulation system that's causing corrosion on any of those systems?
Yeah, there's because of the nature of that water, the corrosiveness, because of the chlorine, there's corrosion on a lot of stuff. You know, the coils in the pool packs get corrosion on them, the motors, the fans. I mean, everything does get corroded. I mean, our pump room, that's the next thing that is going to have to be replaced in this building is the pump room. I mean, it's but to answer your question, there definitely is corrosion.
So the only other topic I had on for tonight was anything regarding the Facebook site. Debbie, I know I haven't had a chance to look at it in a while. Thanks, Brandon, for helping us.
I'll put some things on there. We haven't
Yeah.
gotten far. I got a couple things on there. We put tonight's meeting announcement on there. Of course, there's only like probably 2 of us that looked at the Facebook page, but going forward, we'll put the meeting announcement on there. Let me see if I can find it.
I'll advertise it on my page.
There you go. Very good.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up here. I saw we had 2 likes. Is there a way we can promote? Is there any way we can promote this? So right now, all the topics are the environmental board meetings, so all our Zoom calls. And then we do have our resolution down here at the.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I have the tree planting from last November to send over, and I was going to put some spotted lanternfly information that was in our newsletters.
That'll be good.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
if there's anything else that we can start to promote on here, please, open to ideas. Do we want to talk about the Villanova group, or is that really not shouldn't be public knowledge?
I think it's worth making a mention that they contributed to. Yeah. We can write up a little blurb that they helped us out during the fall and spring. In fact, Professor Schmidt sent me an article. He got interviewed for a podcast in Philly, a Philly climate podcast. And he's talking overall about the overall RISE program Villanova does with various businesses in the area, but he did mention their relationship with Plymouth. So it might be worth noting on that. Brandon, do you know how many pinned posts you're allowed on Facebook?
I think you can only do 1.
So I just wondered if it'd be worth pinning our renewable energy resolution for now, Just so it shows up the top, and then as we get others we want to highlight, we could put them for a month at a time or whatever we decide.
You want the resolution or the photo of the?
Yeah, the photo's a good one.
That's what I thought would be I didn't know what you called it, like the banner at the very top that you
Yep.
see. What do you call that?
Oh yeah, this is a good banner. I like that.
Right? That's what I put at the top.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. I was just thinking in this post area, you can pin one post and have that always be at the top. So rather than having the Zoom meetings be the highest priority, I just thought maybe it'd be nice to put the resolution as the pin post.
Could we have the community center follow the page, so then people who see the community center will might see it
Yeah,
also?
that's a good idea.
Are you admin for the community center also, Brendan?
No, they have it over there.
Do you mind, Rick, do you mind asking if they would follow our page?
Sorry, I apologize. I was reading an email. Say that again.
I was thinking that with the community center Facebook admin mind following our page or liking our page.
Sure, I'll talk to Joanna. I think she's running that now.
Yeah, looks good. Nice start.
If I may chime in, you can only, I just checked, you can only pin one at a time. So I pinned up that document. And then another thing is, I was talking to Debbie about how you can't put up PDFs. You have to kind of make them pictures, image files, and then upload them that way. That's
Like
why they
this.
look like that. I wish you could upload PDFs. It would be way cleaner, but that's the best that you can do really as far as
No,
posting on Facebook.
That looks good though.
Okay.
Yeah, that gets the point across.
Mhm.
Thanks. I'll like it. I'll like my own. So yeah, share with your friends, share with your neighbors. Let's promote our presence on the web now. Oh, I saw that you have the township has its own Facebook site, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can check with, I mean, I don't know if you can speak for it, Karen. If we can post a mention of this page on the township Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah, I would have to ask about that.
Yeah.
But I know one thing is that Chris Monero and Kathy Bandish and I are active on Facebook.
Mhm.
And we both have council pages. I mean, they're like political council pages and personal ones. So I can post the information about this Facebook page on both of mine, and I'll ask Kathy and Chris if they would like to do so as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks.
We just need more material to put on there.
And
Well,
I
I think spotted lanternfly is,
yeah, spider lanternfly will be big.
we're for COVID, that'd be the #1 topic going around.
Right.
Yeah, I must have conquered 2025 in the last 5 days here on my front
Oh.
porch.
They're going to be bad.
Yeah.
So can I talk about that for a minute? Bill sent around an email last Tuesday. It was kind of last minute, but I had already gotten the notice from Concha Hawkins. I guess it's their EAC, and then they have a shade tree committee or a team, I guess, or Friends of Conchi. And one of their team members, Brandon McCracken, gave a presentation. It was excellent last Tuesday night. I don't know if anybody else caught it. It was on spotted lanternflies. And I think it was only about an hour, but he went through some kind of training, I think from the Penn State Extension Service, because he had an awful lot of resources and inside information about what they're testing and insecticides that seem to be working. But I don't know how anybody else feels, but that might be something that perhaps we can promote and maybe have him on behalf of our township, maybe give a presentation. What do you think? Like 2 people.
That would be cool. I wonder if also in the meantime, could we also kind of did Elisa, it was done through Facebook, wasn't it? I'm wondering if their recording is something we could link to.
You know what? I don't know. I think it was in the Facebook events is where I actually saw it before I saw the email, I believe. So I had flagged it to watch anyway, and then the email came through, and you didn't have to register. It was free, of course. And I thought he did a great job, and he talked about how, like, I don't know about anybody else. I know Mike V, you have a garden, but my garden is pitiful this year, and
Uh-huh.
I've seen an awful lot of spotted lanternflies when they were the nymphs. And he said in this presentation that they are known not to kill plants, except for the tree of heaven and small tree saplings, grapevines, and maybe hops. But they are thought to be a plant stressor. And he talked about this black soot that gets onto the leaves, and then the plant can't do its photosynthesis. And I don't know, this was just a very rough year with insects and bugs and things, and I think they contributed an awful lot to that.
I think that'd be a cool idea.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, maybe you can get in touch with the Conchi EAC and see if they loaded it up to YouTube so that you can link to it.
Okay, I'll do that. I have the last PowerPoint slide I took a picture of it with contact information, so I'm happy to reach out to them and see what I can find. And I don't know, I think that's the other thing I want to fill in on our EAB page of our website page, of just resources about the spotted lanternfly, because there's traps that you can make at home. There's a list of insecticides that are safe for your vegetables and other it's not going to kill other trees, but it's effective on the spotted lanternfly.
Won't kill bees.
Right. And when you put the tape on the tree, he gave a resource of he talked about how bats and birds and things are getting stuck in these traps. And so there's a way that if you put the tape up, you should put like chicken wire over top of it so that the spotted lanternflies will go up in under this chicken wire and still get to the tape, but it won't harm other animals or insects.
Nice, yeah. And feel free to ask if he'd be willing to do his presentation live sometime too, if we do want to.
Yeah, he's local. They were wildlife centers that he gave information on. So anyway, I have more to send you, Brandon. There will be more to come on that.
Okay, great.
And didn't we have a lanternfly article that we published in one of the newsletters a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Maybe we could extract that and just have another section here for spotted lanternfly.
Yeah. There's a lot of the townships, EABs or ECs have a lot on spotted lanternflies. So they're not, I don't think they're their own. I think that a lot of the information is coming from the Penn State Extension Service that they've just borrowed and added the link to the resource. So I think we could do the same thing.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. That'd be good. Thanks. Good work, Debbie. I happen to notice on the Plymouth site, I was pretty impressed. Does anybody have Twitter in our group?
No.
I was impressed that the township has a Twitter.
Yeah, it does.
Where is it? Right here? Right here. Twitter. So we should start following the township for live updates. I don't have a Twitter. I guess I got to get up to date.
I don't want a Twitter.
I don't.
I follow too much.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so I deliberately avoid adding.
Just one more thing to be responsible for. You're right.
Yeah.
So,
No, just to take away and eat up my time.
Yeah.
It does. It does. Rick, any updates from your side?
Not really. We the East Plymouth Valley concession stand project's back out to bid. We had our mandatory pre-bid conference today. Wasn't really well attended, not as much as I thought based on how many people were following it on PennBid. So we'll see what happens there. We're continuing to work with the architects and engineers on the township building renovation project. We had another meeting today. That's moving along. There's not a lot going on as far as projects goes. We're trying to save some money to see what happens with this COVID-19. So just doing the routine maintenance stuff.
Well, that's good. You're keeping busy, I'm sure. Is your first workshop going to be on the 7th, you think? It'll be Monday the 7th? Oh, wait, Monday the 7th is Labor Day.
It'll be Tuesday. That Tuesday is the workshop, and then the 14th is the public meeting.
Okay, so your workshop will be on the 8th. It sounds like maybe that'll be our first chance to see a public presentation on the building. So if any of the other EAB members would like to listen in on that, I think I would be interested.
Is it Zoom?
Yeah.
It is Zoom, yes. I think is it through September, Karen, the Zoom meetings for? Okay. Yeah, I think council agreed to go through September with the Zoom meetings other than the in-person. So this will be a Zoom meeting in September.
All right. So then, Brandon, are you going to be available on Tuesday the 15th, do you think?
The 15th. Yeah, I should be.
Because that would be our next environmental board meeting. So
Yeah. Yeah,
all right.
don't have anything going on.
All right, I'll ask Karen if we can schedule that. So any other topics anyone else wanted to raise today?
Not I.
We're just all trying to keep going through the summer, huh?
Can't
Yeah.
believe August is almost over.
Yep. Hard to believe we made it this far. I guess we can make the rest of the way, don't you think?
Yeah, we'll make it.
All right, so motion to close.
Second.
And second, all right, guys, thanks for everybody's input. Agam, great presentation. Good
Wait,
work.
so motioned and who's second? Sorry, I don't have everybody's pictures up.
I motioned and Agam second.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of August, and we'll see you in September.